So simple tutorial.
यदि आपके अंगूठे में दर्द है, यदि आपको लाइक, शेयर या सब्सक्राइब करने में कष्ट होता है, तो मान्यवर ये वीडियो आपके लिए नहीं है। आपसे विनम्र निवेदन है कि आप इसे छोड़कर जा सकते हैं।
Good morning, students. Welcome to SST. This is Vijay Singh, your social science teacher for grade 9 and 10. Dear students, we gained freedom from the clutches of the British in 1947. At the time of independence, India was a poor and underdeveloped country. The country's economy, which was historically agrarian, had very low productivity. It was unable to feed its own growing population. Till the 70s, India depended on other countries for food grains. Then happened the Green Revolution. We became self-sufficient in the matters of food grain. The story of industries, dear students, is no different. There were only few industries. Many of the cottage and small-scale industries had declined under the British rule. There were no basic or heavy industries in the country. Tisco may be considered as an exception. But then the government focused on developing basic industries. So you can say that we started from the scratch. Then came the economic liberalization in 1990s. It changed the game altogether. India entered in the era of robust economic growth. Today we are the fifth largest economy in the world. India is now regarded as a global player in IT, telecom, textiles, chemicals, pharmaceuticals, biotechnology, steel, and aviation sectors. However, despite the economic advancements, challenges persist, and one of those challenges is poverty. When we look around students, we find so many people which we think are poor, is it not? We see poverty all around us. According to 2011-12 poverty reports, roughly 27 crore people in our country live in poverty, which means that India has the largest concentration of the poor in the world. And this shows the seriousness of the challenge. But you don't form an impression that the government is sitting idle doing nothing. Our government is making consistent efforts to counter this challenge and has largely succeeded. Recently, I was listening to our Prime Minister addressing a global summit in New Delhi. Let us see what he says.
भारत में गरीबी अब तक के सबसे कम स्तर पर यानी सिंगल डिजिट में पहुंच गई है.
That means things are improving. The picture is not so grim as it was before. Let us come back to our textbook. The textbook begins with two cases of poverty, one from urban setup and the other from rural setup. The first story is an urban case of Ram Saran and the second case rural case of Lakha Singh. Ram Saran works as a daily work laborer in a wheat flour mill near Ranchi in Jharkhand. His job is not regular. When he finds job, he manages to earn around 1500 rupees a month. His family comprises 6 members, that includes his wife and 4 children. His father, who lives in Hajaribagh, also depends on Ram Saran for his sustenance. Just think, 1500 rupees, can it sustain such a big family? Ram Saran lives in a one-room rented house somewhere in a crowded basti. In fact, he cannot afford better than this. His wife also works as a part-time maid and manages to earn rupees 800. Then his elder son also works as a helper in a tea shop to supplement the family's income. He earns another 300 rupees. His 10 years old daughter takes care of the younger siblings at home. This way somehow they manage a meal of dal and rice twice a day, which is never enough for all of them. None of the children go to school. The younger kids are undernourished. They have no access to health care when they fall sick. Let us see the next case, that is rural case. Lakha Singh belongs to a small village near Meerut in UP. His family doesn't own any land, so they do odd jobs for the big farmers. Just like Ram Saran, work is not regular, hence the income. At times they get paid rupees 50 for a hard day's work, but often it is in kind, like a few kgs of wheat, dal or vegetables for working in the farm. The family comprises 8 members. Lakha lives in a kacha hut on the outskirts of the village. The women of the family spent the day chopping fodder and collecting firewood in the fields. His father was a TB patient 2 years ago due to the lack of medication. He passed away. His mother now is suffering from the same disease. Although the village has a primary school, Lakha never went there. So these are two small stories. Now students analyze these stories. Do they have land? No, they don't. They are landless. Landless laborers are generally poor. They earn very less wages. They are also subject to seasonal unemployment. During the lean season, they have to do odd jobs at a very low wages. This may lead to poverty. What about the size of their families? One is 6 plus and the other 8. See, when the number of persons in a family increases, the income becomes insufficient to provide for the essentials for a proper living. In such cases, other members also need to contribute to supplement the family's income. We saw Ram Saran's son working in a tea stall. Sometimes, some poor parents wish to send their children to school, but poverty does not allow this. Poverty forces the parents to make their children work. This is one of the reasons why poor students drop out from schools. As a result, when they grow up, they don't find a well paid job. I hope you understand this cycle. That is why we say poverty begets poverty. All these issues, students, are some way or the other related to poverty. Illiteracy is also one such issue. When parents are illiterate, they don't understand the importance of education, so they don't send their children to schools. When these children become adults and enter the job market, they fail to find well paid jobs, resulting again to poverty. Poor people also do not afford to have adequate amount of nutritious food. So that causes malnutrition and poor health. Students, during our time, when someone asked us what is poverty, then there used to be a standard answer. It is a situation in which a poor is unable to get the minimum necessities of life, that is food, clothing and shelter for his or her sustenance. But this definition sounds older now. The way things are seen now has changed. Poverty is no more seen as having only one dimension. The other dimensions are clearly shown through the examples of Ram Saran and Lakha. Poverty no more means hunger or lack of shelter alone. Poverty is a situation if a sick person cannot afford medical treatment. Poverty is a situation if the parents are unable to send their children to schools. Poverty is a situation when people lack clean drinking water, they lack sanitation. It is also a situation when people lack regular job. So all these are different dimensions of poverty. I hope this discussion helped you understand the different dimensions of poverty. Since poverty has many dimensions, social scientists analyze poverty through a variety of indicators. Besides level of income and consumption, other social indicators include illiteracy levels, lack of general resistance due to malnutrition, lack of access to healthcare, lack of job opportunities, lack of access to safe drinking water, sanitation, etc. But the most commonly used indicators are social exclusion and vulnerability. So let us discuss now social exclusion. You must be aware of the term inclusion and exclusion, which means to include or to exclude something. According to this concept, poverty is seen in terms of the poor having to live only in the poor surroundings with other people, excluded from enjoying social equality of better off people in better surroundings. That means poor people will live only with poor people in poor surroundings. It is, you can say, a sort of marginalization of some people. Social exclusion is thus the denial of facilities, benefits, and opportunities to some individuals or groups that others enjoy. Others here means better off people. This results into social inequality and lack of access to resources. The best example of social exclusion in India is the caste system, where people belonging to different castes are excluded from equal opportunities just because of their social identity and not individual attributes. Thus, social exclusion is a cause of poverty. Because some people are poor, they are socially excluded. It is other way around also. Because some people are socially excluded, they are poor. Due to social exclusion, they do not have the opportunities like others. As a consequence of this, they remain poor. That is why social exclusion can be both a cause as well as consequence of poverty. Okay, let us see now vulnerability. Do you know the meaning of vulnerability? According to Oxford Dictionary, vulnerable means to be exposed to the possibility of being attacked or harmed, either physically or mentally. That means the state of having less resistance to some outside agents. That means susceptibility. In our context, students, vulnerability to poverty is a measure which describes the greater probability of certain communities or individuals of becoming poor or remaining poor in the coming years. Certain community means maybe from backward classes. Individual means maybe a widow or a physically handicapped person. That means some people always carry a high risk of becoming poor. It seems that they are standing on the boundary line. The moment bad times come, they get affected. See, all types of people in our society, poor or non-poor, when bad times come, they come for everyone. Whether it is a flood or an earthquake, or even if there is a fall in the availability of jobs. Vulnerability describes the greater probability of some people who get more adversely affected compared to other people. Vulnerable groups are dealt separately in this book, so we will discuss them only after learning poverty lines. So let me stop here. Let us have a quick recap of what we read just now. What is poverty? Poverty is a situation in which a person is unable to get the minimum necessities of life, that is, food, clothing, and shelter for his or her sustenance. But in today's perspective, poverty no more means hunger or lack of shelter alone. Poverty is a situation if a sick person cannot afford medical treatment. Poverty is also a situation when the parents are unable to send their children to schools. Poverty also means lack of clean drinking water and sanitation facilities. It also means lack of regular job. Social scientists analyze poverty through a variety of indicators. Besides the level of income and consumption, it includes illiteracy level, lack of general resistance due to malnutrition, lack of access to health care, lack of job opportunities, lack of access to safe drinking water, sanitation, etc. But the most common used indicators are social exclusion and vulnerability. Now you read your book properly. In the next class, we shall discuss poverty line. Till then, enjoy reading and have a fantastic time. Thank you.